Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our focus forum. We're going to check to see, let people come in, and we're just very excited about having this discussion of the Syracuse Tree Ordinance modernization. And we're just going to let a few people, we had quite a few people register for this, so over 70. So we're thrilled to be able to offer this, and hope everybody finds this as an informative session. So, hi and welcome to our Focus Forum. I'm Rita Riker, president of Focus Greater Syracuse, and so pleased to welcome you here. I want to initially thank EDR for their generous sponsorship of today's Focus Forum. EDR's mission is dedicated to creating a sustaining and better environment for their clients, their employees, and their communities. You can read more about EDR's mission on our website, focussyracuse.org. Today, we welcome Stephen Harris, Syracuse City Arborist. He will share with us the first draft of the updated City Tree Ordinance, and we'll discuss how the draft ordinance aims to improve the management, protection, and expansion of Syracuse's urban forest. Steve has been a city arborist since 2010 and oversees a forestry division of 10 people that manages 35,000 street trees and 10,000 park trees. Those are a lot of trees. Plants 1,800 trees per year in our streets, parks, and natural areas, and collaborates with other departments to incorporate planning for trees into infrastructure projects and new developments. Steve is a certified urban forest professional and arborist and holds a master's in forest management from SUNY ESF. I also found out that Steve is a graduate of our very first Citizens Academy, so we have found another Citizens Academy alumni, so thrilled to hear that as well. More of Steve's background can be found on our website, focussyracuse.org. Steve, it's all yours.
Thank you, Rita. I want to thank Focus for the invitation. It's very important that we get as much feedback as possible on our first draft. And this opportunity really helps us. The process for updating the ordinance formally began in October of last year. We convened a policy advisory committee of about 20 people that represented neighborhoods, associations, organizations, and departments that interact with, are impacted by, and impact trees. We met with them 3 times, once a month, October, November, December. Kind of brought them up to speed on the ordinance. We reviewed the importance and function of trees for the city. We looked at existing laws. We proposed changes to the existing laws that reflect modern standards of tree protection and reflect the fact that we see trees as infrastructure. This is more important now than ever due to the high demand for housing and land use in general, with all the economic development activity that's happening in the city, the projected growth that we think we're going to have in the city. Also, the fact that we have more heat waves and hotter temperatures mean hotter urban areas where all this hardscape is. And also because we continue to lose canopy. We've lost about 1% since 2013. Helping us with this process has been Karen Firehawk and Lauren Duran of the Green Infrastructure Center. They have a lot of experience updating ordinances for communities. They're based in Charlottesville, Virginia. They've worked along the Mid-Atlantic, Northeast, throughout the country. I first met them many years ago at the National Urban Forestry conference that I attend every year. They're certainly players, and we put out the RFP. When we put it out, they were awarded that. So onward. The reason we're doing this, trying to protect our trees, is that we see trees as green infrastructure. Not only are they a storage center for water runoff. If we lost all our tree cover all at once in the city, that would totally change how the county goes about managing their stormwater runoff. trees are super impactful in reducing peak flows that cause the combined sewer overflows into Onondaga Lake. Probably one of the most important things is that trees combat urban heat. If you look at the slide on the left, that graph shows on the top is the black lines are temperatures, the green lines are canopy. So when there's more canopy, there's lower temperatures. What that is saying that on a 79-degree day, we want it to be as close to 79 as possible, but in the Destiny parking lot, we know that it can be in the high 80s on a 79-degree day because of the absorptive impact of the parking lots. And when you have these heat islands, they bake pollution and make it worse. We know there's a correlation between air quality and temperatures, and we know that neighborhoods with lower canopy have higher asthma rates. So that's just one example of the why combating urban heat island is important. Trees definitely add value to our properties. They act as air conditioners. They lower energy costs. They hold carbon. And as infrastructure, they're the only one that accrues value as trees age. As trees get bigger, they do more of all this stuff. And we know in today's dollars, a mature tree, all the benefits that they provide in today's dollars for an idealized size of tree can provide $77,000 plus annually in benefits compared to a tree that stays small at maturity. So our interest is getting as many large trees in the landscape and keeping the ones that are here around during development. So here are the many benefits that trees provide. Scientists have spent many a decade learning how to measure the benefits of trees. We could spend a lot of time on each one of these, but when we say infrastructure, this is what we mean. Even on the mental health side, trees lower your blood pressure and are a great anger management program. And I think it's easy for people to connect with the benefits of trees once they walk into a lush landscape. So why are we updating? Excuse me, I have to move this out of the way. Why are we updating our codes? We released our draft of our urban forest master plan in 2020, and council adopted it in 2022. And key to reducing canopy loss is updating those tree laws that were last written in 1981. The two primary codes we want to impact are the Chapter 22, which is all the public trees. That's all the trees on lands that the city owns. And that we would like to seek for adoption by council at the end of this calendar year or as soon thereafter. The zoning ordinance, once we started tackling this and proposing changes and getting feedback from departments, we realized this is a little more complicated. Will take a little more time. It took 6 years for us to go through our zoning ordinance process. And we realized we're going to need a little time to impact change to those. And we'll talk over those changes in about 10 minutes. We have a project webpage for the zoning ordinance. If you typed in City of Syracuse Modernizing Municipal Tree Ordinance, your search will come to that link to that page. You'll see we have a frequently asked questions link. And one of the common questions is, are we going to impact private property, trees on private property? And when I say that, I mean trees on residential lands. And we are not going to regulate trees on on residential properties any more than we do now, which is focused on the dead and diseased or dangerous trees on a neighbor's property or on a rental property. It takes a lot of infrastructure to regulate to that scale, and the colleagues I know that are doing it in cities like the city of Portland, Oregon, It's a very difficult thing to do, and we are opting out on that. The reality is that, with the exception of when demolitions happen on residential parcels, we are generally increasing canopy on residential properties up until the time that they become uninhabitable and the properties need to be knocked down and are redeveloped. The trees we're attempting to protect are trees 10 inches and larger and specimen trees, and we'll talk about how we're going to do that. And then, of course, the reason we're doing this are all the benefits I mentioned previously. Just to have a livable city, you need a functioning, healthy, and resilient urban forest. And we think these changes will help us get there. So drilling down to what we've changed in Chapter 22, which is public trees, we've added some definitions. We've identified trees as green infrastructure. A tree advisory board is proposed. There actually, in the current ordinance, is a vegetation advisory council that we're supposed to have. I do not, in my time, that's never existed. In my time working in urban forestry the last 20 years in the city, that has not been a thing. And we're proposing renaming that tree advisory board. That would help us with public education awareness. They wouldn't weigh in on individual tree removal decisions, but can play a role in helping us identify planting priority areas and types of trees that we're planting. We're proposing an 8-member board that meets quarterly. We've added some elements to permit sections, including making sure invasive trees aren't planted, updating our species planting list. We have a tree design manual that we haven't made widely public, and we are making some important updates to it as part of this process so that we can make sure it is cross-referenced both to this chapter and chapter 4.5 of rezone, so that developers know what standards we expect them to apply around trees. We have added some prohibitions against damaging public trees. Right now, the ordinance primarily protects trees by saying you can't affix anything to a tree and you can't cut roots over 5 inches. And if you do, you need to contact the city arborist. That's kind of an old school way to look at tree protection. So we are making changes that make sure people recognize what the tree protection zone is, which is an area wider than the canopy of a tree, and that you can't impact areas within that without the proper permitting and approval from the city arborist. Or the Parks Department, I think, is how it ultimately will refer approvals to. So this would mean not compacting soils, not paving around trees, making sure that utility work is following whatever is required when working in that zone. We are proposing a new construction activities permit. We have since been talking to city engineering, who has been going through a process over the last couple years to update the road cut permit. Forestry has been part of that process, and that road cut permit may be our avenue to do what we're proposing here, which is making sure that any construction happening in the tree protection zone includes a permit to the city arborist. And not just for cutting in the road or impacting a sidewalk, et cetera, but also for working within that tree protection zone. It also establishes a replacement cost for when trees must be removed due to construction. And we're talking about diameter or caliper inch replacement. When it's a mature tree, we're talking about the diameter of the tree, 4.5 feet off the ground. If you remove a 30-inch tree, because the nature of the work that's being done will result in too much root loss, the tree needs to be removed. We want to make sure we're getting 30 inches of tree back in some way. So that would be 15 2-inch trees, or the cost equivalent to have those planted and cared for a year after planting. To be planted in or near the project area as possible. Otherwise, a check is written and goes to a mitigation bank. That's what replacement is called, mitigation, and we'll talk about how we propose doing that in a few slides. We are also proposing that city projects such as curb and sidewalk replacement account for the cost of removal and replacement in those projects. Utilities as well. We own the right of way. So right now, when we have issues with private trees being in the right of way and impacting public safety in the right of way, we manage those trees, but we want to add a stipulation that the owner of those trees is responsible for that. Such as road clearance, trees that are uprooting and about to fall in the right of way, et cetera. Every now and then, city engineering has had to do stop work orders for work going on in our right of way because those operating under that permit aren't following the rules. They've shut that down until elements of the permit are corrected or followed. And we want to be able to do the same in the name of trees within the forestry division. Of course, we will call out permit exceptions when we have emergency work. There's a water main break, a gas leak, etc. Obviously, somebody needs to go there and fix that situation immediately, and we would suspend those requirements for that. Penalties. We have very small fines for doing damage to our trees. Right now, it's only $150. We want to increase that to $1,000, cap it at $10,000. And as it relates to replacement costs, if the damage from that willful misconduct forces us to replace that tree or significantly damages it, we want those replacement costs to be at a 2-to-1 rate rather than a 1-to-1 rate. And again, making those replacements as close to the impacted tree as possible. As it relates to tree banks, there's 2 ways to address this. One is if damage happens and trees can be planted on site at sufficient quantity, we would require the planting to happen there. Oftentimes with new development projects especially, or there just isn't the room there, we would have a physical location where trees could be planted. More likely and with more flexibility would be a tree bank fund where there's a payment equivalent to a certain amount of replacement trees. We would use those funds not only to plant new trees, but to provide maintenance to existing trees or to change how the landscape is so there's room for trees where there was not prior, and the associated and the cost to make that happen. Something that provides some flexibility because the trees you have are the most important ones to protect and the fastest way to get increased canopy. So however we do this, of course, there'll be a transparent process and oversight to make sure the funds would be used the way they're supposed to be. And we didn't actually talk about it prior to launching this, but my presentation is only going to be about 25 minutes, and I can take all the questions then. We have an issue now with disposing of our wood waste, and we underutilize our wood. There is a lot of usable wood product in the logs that are taken down, and the trees that are taken down. They can be converted to furniture, and even firewood is better repurposing than grinding up and sending to a landfill or burning. Our goal is to keep as much wood and carbon as possible, but right now it's not as simple as just giving wood to somebody. That could be seen as a gift or a favor. So we need a process, a mechanism to make it easier to make this wood available so it can be repurposed at a higher use than it is currently. There are well-established standards for the types of tree you buy, the condition they're in when you buy them, the stock type, the way that they're grown, whether it's a balled and burlap tree, a container tree, a bare root tree, a tree in a root control bag, which is sort of a container tree. And then there's good standards for how trees are planted and what planting area they're going through and how you design those planting areas. Those would all be in the design manual, and we want to make sure that that's followed on public as well as private land, which is what we're about to talk to next. Now, the zoning ordinance actually speaks to not just private land, but also the right of way that new developments are being developed on. So there's a little crossover into what we expect developers to do in the public right of way as well as on their own property. And that starts with the site plan review. We want to make sure when proposed projects are sent to us that they take into account the natural resources that are on the site. This includes existing forest, the quality of that existing forest, what species are in them, specimen trees, and any tree over 10 inches that is not a nuisance invasive tree, a dead tree, like in a lot of our vacant lands, there are many trees that are of poor structure, poor quality, but on some of these undeveloped properties, there's a lot of quality trees there. And we want to make sure that when developers are looking at their vision, the thought bubble in their head, that it's not a blank slate that they build on, that they recognize there could be streams there could be forests there, high quality trees that should be planned around rather than through. And we want to make sure that we have some discretion in the conversation around that, what that project looks like. So again, what I was just talking about before, one of those things will be that the developers, when they're installing trees and landscapes, that they follow the established standards of the professions around trees and landscapes. Planting, stock quality, species diversity with a strong preference towards native trees. We do want to make sure that species are matching site conditions. We also want to make sure that site conditions are improved. A lot of times when a development happens, trees are just planted at the end with no attention to the soil compaction that's on those sites. That soil needs to be fluffed up or whatever's there replaced with soil so trees can grow. They're living organisms. They can't just plant wherever you see grass. They need to be able to grow 2.5 to 3 feet deep. They grow really wide. Where are these roots going to go? We also want to make sure whatever designs are developed for trees and trees that are planted are sufficient so the trees live. And we want to make sure that we want to establish performance and maintenance bonds so that developers are motivated to follow those standards. I recently went by the Taco Bell on Brighton, on West Seneca Turnpike at Brighton. We reviewed those plans 3 or 4 years ago. I had not been in that area in a long time. Almost all those trees are dead and have probably been dead for some time. So what is the mechanism to make sure that developers, they built the infrastructure, they spent the money on the tree, what can we do to make sure it lives and grows and provides the benefits we're looking for through these tree laws? We're seeking minimum tree cover on these sites. So for a lot of projects, between the building footprint and parking, they're taking up 80% of the footprint of a site, and the 20% that remains, it could be challenging to get for that to be laid out in a way that's usable space for trees, which is one of the reasons the interface with the right-of-way is so important, that we get something good there. But on some projects, we reviewed years ago a storage facility on Van Rensselaer. 60 to 70% of the land area was going to be mowed grass. So in that case, we commented we wanted to see trees every 20 to 30 feet in the areas that were not the stormwater facilities. And so that's what we're speaking to here. Having a tree every 400 square feet is about every 20 feet apart. The point being, we want to make sure in those open areas like that, we get canopy there. And then in those new developments, like I just mentioned, we want to make sure we get a certain amount of street tree frontage too. The new convention center that's going to be at the Warren Street parking lot and Lemp Art Park. We've already been in discussion with the developer about what the mitigation for the trees that are going to be removed look like, and then what the new streetscape's going to look like. They're being very proactive, having this conversation even before they present the concepts. I think that really helps any developer plan on what their costs are going to be. And so our goal with all of this, of course, is predictability and what's expected of a developer by the city. Anyway, we like to see trees every 30 feet. And then we're going to have the design standards for how to design a downtown tree pit so that roots can grow under the sidewalk and under the snow shelf without heaving the hardscape. With parking spaces, parking spaces are hard. Parking is a challenge, but we would like to up those standards so that there's a car within 60 feet of the base of a tree so that we can get close to full canopy coverage at maturity for a parking lot. This requires that each tree have 800 to 1,000 cubic feet of soil volume. That's about a 10 by 30 square foot area. That's about 3 feet deep. That's what it takes to get a tree about 16 inches in diameter and to have a canopy that's 30 feet wide. So that's a breezy tour of the tree laws. If you want to really dig down and look at them, you can go to the top link and QR code. And I encourage you to do that, especially if, looking for a cure for insomnia, bring this to your bed at night and read. But there's a lot of detail there, and we've highlighted what the proposed changes are so that it's easy to see what was and what we want it to be. And then we would like your comments, and that's what the bottom QR code is for. Thank you for listening to this point. Please go to our project page and look at what is up there. We will continue to update. We hope to do a few more presentations in the month of July, particularly reaching out to developers and presenting to our council for consideration before we present a final draft and another round of outreach and feedback.
Great. Thank you, Stephen. We've got some questions that I'd like to go through. Do you want to keep this presentation up, or do you want? There we go. Great. So a first one, easy one, maybe easy. What's your favorite tree? Do you have one?
That is that's always changing. Right now, I have two favorites: Chinkapin oak, which is a beautiful oak that thrives in high pH soils, which we have plenty of. And also American hop hornbeam, which is a native to the region and also does pretty well in our streets, and it's just an awesome tree.
Got it. A question that came up during the discussion during your presentation really relates. It's from John, and it's when is it the city's responsibility for tree removal or pruning?
At any time it needs it.
But I mean, the location, so right.
Oh, I understand. Yeah. So we're responsible for all the trees on city land. So the right of way is different from the road and sidewalk because our right of ways in some neighborhoods, we have 100-foot right of way. It can extend all the way to some people's front porches are in our right of way. So any tree there is technically on city property. So we manage those. On private property, that's property owner's responsibility. So in fact, if a tree from one house grows onto your property and you want it pruned, and it's a healthy tree that's just growing, but you want it away from your house, that would be on you as the property owner to prune because it's on your property. But if
Got
that tree were dead and you're worried about the impact of that tree on your property, or let's say renters next door, we do go because our tree laws and property conservation code speak to this. We would issue a code violation and mandate removal of that tree.
Got it. Another one that just came out in the chat from Bill is there a Northeast US city that's a good example of what Syracuse would like to become regarding tree coverage?
Um, there are various cities that are doing good things. Some have more and some have less tree cover than we do. Our city of Rochester has an exemplary tree program. Uh, the way they manage trees, the way they manage sidewalks and trees. We do try and model them.
Mhm.
They're they re-inventory 1/6 of their city every year and then develop their tree planting and management budgets based on last year's inventory. We're moving that direction. The city of Pittsburgh has almost 40% canopy cover. We would like to have at least 35% canopy cover
Mm.
overall and at least 30% in every neighborhood. They have an advantage in having a lot of hillsides that are parks that are not developable. Um, and so that might be a little challenging for us to get, but those are two that come to mind.
Got it. From Dennis, how does this affect a large private ownership such as Oakwood Cemetery?
It would affect Oakwood Cemetery if they had some significant redevelopment that had to go before the permit office.
Okay, otherwise it doesn't, that wouldn't impact it?
It would not. I mean, the cemeteries, I'm trying to think of what would, like, I don't think so.
Okay.
One of the calls we get, there's some landlords that keep buying properties for rentals. And there's one in particular that just has something about trees. They remove every tree on their property,
Mm.
and we don't regulate that. I keep trying to talk them out of it and help them think about the rationale behind what trees to remove and keep. But like I said before, in most cases for our private property, we're growing canopy.
Got it. Thinking about downtown, what's downtown right now? What types of trees are predominantly downtown now? And is there an interest in changing that to something different?
Yeah, there is. We're downtown's, I think, over 80% honey locust, simply because that tree withstands a really wide range of tolerances, heat, pollution, salt, compaction. But also we have a honey locust plant bug, which is a real nuisance this time of year. And they'll bite you and they're itchy, and sometimes people call losing their mind about because they can't sit on their porch because of that bug. So it'd be nice to reduce the population of honey locusts and have a wider variety of trees. We have to have better planting spaces for trees downtown to do that. So we have been the key to diversifying in our downtowns is to build better tree pits. So we no longer plant in the classic 4x4 or 5x5 tree pit. When we have the empty pits, we go to those sites, we dig out a 10-foot by 15-foot area. So we remove the sidewalk, we remove portions of the lawn, we dig everything out to 2.5 to 3 feet deep. We put a certain kind of a stone with soil wrapped or stuck to it, put that down, put all the hardscape back. We lengthen the tree pit opening a little bit, and then we plant a new tree. And ultimately, we'll fill that opening in with flexi-pave.
Got it.
And if we can continue to do that, then we will be able to plant a wider diversity of trees.
Got it. Sounds like quite a process, though.
It is. I mean, it's just the built environment. We have
Right.
capital improvement money now in the Parks Department that allow us to work with engineering,
Mm,
our transportation planner to green up all the projects that they're doing.
got it. From Bob, do you think city residents understand the benefits of urban tree planting in reducing the carbon footprint and providing cooler cities? Do you think there's?
I mean, a percentage do now,
Mhm.
and there's always more we can do to reach the public, and we're always strategizing how to do that and how to expand our programs. The primary way we do that now is we have a community forester who's in charge of our planting plan. They've been doing tree walks. When they do the tree walks, helping identify the trees, they talk about the benefits of urban forest at large and the individual trees they're talking about. We partner with Onondaga Earth Corps, sometimes with Cornell Cooperative Extension to do education, and we'll continue to try and get the message out to more people.
Got it. Got it. From Paul, what's the status of the free tree program? Is there a free tree program? And if so, how does one
Yes, there's a yard tree
apply to it?
giveaway, and uh, I did. I'm searching for the update. We've been typically, I think 2 years ago, we did it in the spring and the fall, where we purchased about 300 300 trees in 3-gallon containers.
Mhm.
So they're trees that are 1 year old. They're 2 to 4 feet tall. And they're very easy to carry and plant. And we didn't host one in the spring. Looks like we're going to probably do one this fall with events planned for October and November, dates to be announced. Probably Arbor Day might be one of those,
Mhm.
which we celebrate Arbor Day in the fall because that's the best time to plant trees.
Got it.
As part of this program, residents will be able to pick up 1 to 2 free trees to plant on the private property. We'll offer a mix of native and edible trees. The edibles are hugely popular, with a selection that includes small, medium, and large trees.
Hmm. And
And
how will that be
interest,
announced? I'm sorry.
what's that?
How will it be announced? How?
Um, that is a good question, how we're going to announce that. But the way to get, for now, email trees@syr.gov.
Got it. Great. Thank you. From Deb, would it be possible to plan some wild space set aside in our parks that could grow plants, especially for birds, butterflies, and animals? Is that something you can address?
Yeah, that's a good question. You know, we now have active natural areas programming um, that's addressing existing forests right now. What is their condition and how can we improve them ecologically by removing invasives and planting natives? And we've done a lot of native plantings from perennials, perennial pollinating plants to trees in our forests. But when I hear that, what I'm thinking of is like current grasslands or open space that's not forested. Right now, what we've done at parks is a few places where we've stopped mowing, um, but we haven't talked about expanding forests in those natural areas. Um, that is possible. I think in the coming years, we're actually going to do a natural resource assessment. I think the planning department is looking at doing that, and we would think about how to do what was asked in a formal way through that process. I will say there is a place down by Connolly Aqueduct, which is Glenwood and McDonald, where the Syracuse Urban Food Forest Project planted on our lands a super high density planting of trees. I can't remember what the name of that forest is called. It's a process of forestation where you plant trees a foot apart so they grow as a closed canopy quickly, which helps them grow up and you thin over time.
That Springdale by any chance? I just see.
Springdale, you got it. Springdale, also known as.
Got it. From Shanty, and you may need to explain what this is, but will the Pass Arboretum 2025 project go forward? Are you familiar with that project?
Oh, yes. That is an important part of what we're trying to do with our urban forestry program in general is we are planning a significant revitalization of Pass Arboretum. Right now, we're putting together a press release to let people know that we're going to do tree removals soon. The tree removals we're doing right now are based on the condition of the trees. And then we are actually going to pave that inner loop path, which used to be 25 feet wide roadway that was used for transportation that passed through the Arboretum. But we're going to do a 10-foot wide asphalt path to provide maintenance, extend the season of use. And then we will be removing, I think, 60 to 70 trees, and our goal is to plant 100 trees this year, do some formal landscape edging around new and existing trees, and label every tree this year.
Oh. Now, for those of us who aren't familiar with Pass, where is it located?
Pass Arboretum is near the zoo. It's near Burnett Park. It's bounded by Salisbury Road, Avery, and Tompkins, near the Myrtle Cemetery.
Got it.
And Salisbury Road connects us to Town of Geddes and the Westcott Water Tower.
Got it. Thank you. Let's see, in the chat from Anne, foraging on public land is now illegal, and Syracuse is working to legalize it in the revised tree ordinance. Are there any municipal ordinances around the country or internationally that might provide best case examples? What does the ordinance need to consider with regard to supporting public harvest opportunity? Did any?
It did, and if that's from Ann Bellows, she knows all the answers to that better than I do. And they have proposed language that we could adopt. We in the forestry division are certainly favorable to allowing foraging on our public lands. The Syracuse Urban Food Forest Project, which is a partnership between Syracuse University, SUNY College of Environmental Science and Forestry, some nonprofit organizations in the city, and certainly with collaboration from us, they've planted a lot of edible plants in our parks. And right now there's language in a few different ordinances that would make that say that's not allowed. Those things, when they were written, they were focused on making sure that when we put ornamental flowers in the ground, et cetera, that people don't come and just steal our plants. That's my assumption of what those were about. But we want people to be able to forage in our parks. And so we are interested in changing relevant laws to allow that to happen.
Got it. From Bill, what is the biggest current threat to Syracuse trees? Removal, disease, other? And are there any new approaches to manage damage from tree roots to sidewalks, bike paths, etc.? Did any of that make sense? I think it's two different questions.
There are two things going on. I mean, there are a lot of pest and pathogen threats to trees. And emerald ash borer continues to be an issue. We still treat our ash trees. We're treating ash trees right now. We treat on a 3-year cycle, and we've treated about half of our population, a little over. Hemlock woolly adelgid is a big threat to all our hemlocks. We are treating our small population hemlocks by spraying a pesticide on the trunk of those trees. That prevents so when the crawlers go up the trunk, that's how they get up into the tree. They're impacted by that. There's various blights that are impacting oaks. We're certainly concerned about that. Extreme storms. Last year, 2 tornadoes went north and south of the city of Syracuse. Had they hit the city, they would have caused enormous damage.
Mm.
This year, that storm that was just east of us in Oneida last week, that would
Right.
have been devastating to us. We had a big storm in March that spent 6 weeks still cleaning up from. So
Yeah.
certainly those are threats. Um, Increased development, land use change is the biggest cause of canopy loss. And
Mm.
for a lot of the development we do, it's just hard to either the trees that are being impacted grew wild in an abandoned vacant lot and are not trees that you could or should keep around, but making sure there's space for future trees we have to deal with. Certainly all our infrastructure projects and the roads, if when we replace a road and a curb at the same time, there's so much root loss there. It's really hard to keep trees around. And we are still exploring ways um, to to do that construction and keep trees or provide opportunities for new trees so that they don't impact that sidewalk again.
Got it. Related to this from Jack, you may have already addressed it, but the municipal sidewalk replacement program in Syracuse has made some great improvements. Unfortunately, large trees are sometimes cut down when new sidewalks are poured. Can your office work with DPW to allow use of a permeable and flexible tarvia material around tree roots instead of concrete? Would this allow us to save more mature trees?
Yeah, so when it comes to deciding what trees to remove or not, we look at a couple things. One is we look at the condition of the existing tree,
Mhm.
knowing that it's going to experience root loss. Um, and especially with our super mature silver maples, um, we we're often hesitant to keep those around because the damage when they fall over or break is catastrophic. So we do look at we would like to do and explore the possibility of doing some temporary repairs to sidewalks. We would like to look at keeping more sidewalks 4 feet, um, so that rather than expanding to 5 feet. These are things we got to work through at a policy level within the city to make sure we comply with ADA, uh, to make sure we have a program where if we're doing temporary repairs where we're going to have to go back, let's say in 5 years, we have a method to address those and the financial bandwidth to do so. Um, but these are things that are on our mind every day. It's because we're replacing more curb and sidewalk than ever before. That's having a heavy impact on trees. Um, we get a lot of feedback about that, and we're just trying to figure out what the most effective way to deal with it and how to better communicate with our colleagues on that.
Got it. Question from Tara. What kind of trees will be planted after the East Adams project is completed?
A whole variety of shade trees, wherever we can that grow tall and create shade. Um, a variety of species, a little bit more diverse than what's there now. Um, those projects were good.
Mm.
SHA in the 70s planted a lot of trees um, in those areas, and what from what I've seen on the streets, I think we're going to see good tree planting design and replacement. Uh, but the new buildings have more, there's more building footprint, so there won't be as much open space for trees in those areas. Um, but we do like what's going to happen along the streets.
Good.
And that the roots will have somewhere to grow under the sidewalk in those designs so that we're not dealing with heaving sidewalks.
Final question from Jim. What can homeowners, volunteers do to help support, preserve, maintain, and improve Syracuse's urban forest? What can we do?
Continue to participate in our tree plantings, um, and any public for events that we provide where we're teaching people how to prune and plant trees. Um, providing, if you have trees on your property, having qualified professional arborists, tree care companies look at the tree, see what they can do to optimize the health of that tree. One of the most important things you can do is a full tree pruning. Getting out the dead wood, any long out of balance branches that might break in a storm, making them a little shorter. Pruning is an important way to extend the life of trees. So caring for the trees we have is step number one. And then planting more.
Okay, sounds good. Well, thank you, Steve.
And
Yes, yes. No, I
sorry,
didn't mean to
I'll
interrupt.
say in closing, we'll have our big fall tree planting events. We will post those publicly, so people definitely get notice about them and come help us get more trees in the ground.
Excellent, excellent. Well, thank you so much for being here with us today. As with all of our forums, we'll be posting this forum on our website, focussyracuse.org. Another big thank you to EDR for their sponsorship of this. We have opportunities for everybody to know. We have opportunities for sponsorships and would love to talk to people about sponsoring one or more of these forums. You'll find an easy way on our website to donate to Focus. We work on a shoestring budget and would appreciate any donations. And beyond that, again, thank you. And everyone have a great day. Have a great weekend. Take care.